Okay, when I got the Neural DSP Nanocortex, I found out about this via a leak. Just a Welsh guy started hitting me with it. And anyway, I thought, let's see what's up with this. One of the really cool things about the launch of the Nanocortex was that they made a 60-minute sort of comedy piece. No, what's that? All of these were ready to ship, basically. And I think that's actually quite refreshing when we're not that used to being able to get things immediately at launch. Quite often there'll be like a wait list, or, you know, like the Quad Cortex, it's like, right, a year after you've known about this thing, we're going to start shipping these things. There was delays, all that sort of stuff. So that's something I think pretty cool about the Nanocortex. In this video, I wanted to discuss a little bit about some of the maybe shortcomings, and maybe you can join in the comments. If you absolutely hate this product, you can let folks know why. I'd be thrilled if you do that. But also, I think why I quite like it, and also discussing a little trick, I think, to get around the fact that this doesn't have a global EQ.
This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands.
I just wanted to interrupt this to tell you that TrueFire are actually running their best offer that they ever do on the All Access membership at the moment. So use the link in the description. You can get their All Access pass for just $99 a year. Access to all the TrueFire stuff for $99 a year. I think that's actually fantastic value, even though they are paying me to say that. Now, as I sort of teased in the intro there, I was chatting to Rob Harris from Jamiroquai, and he was kind of just asking like about the Nanocortex. He was saying he thinks he could do a clinic or a tour or a gig with it. He uses the Quad Cortex normally, and he was saying, you know, it might be cool to have, you know, something to take back to the hotel room, so he's not having to take a Quad Cortex off the board because he gigs with the backup. He was saying that basically his presets are quite simple. He normally uses like a divided by 13 capture, maybe a little bit of reverb and delay, and his Noble's ODR1 up front. And it's kind of like, well, in that case, then absolutely this thing is basically for you. And likewise with like bass guitarists and that sort of thing. He did, however, say, I don't think there's a global EQ on here. Now, at the time of making this video, there has been no updates to this, but I'm expecting, hopefully, that in the future, that Neural DSP are going to support the Nanocortex much like they have the Quad Cortex, and that this thing will continue to be more and more useful. But as it is, what it is a capture machine that can capture stuff, an IR loader, as well as it's got a noise gate, a transpose, a delay, which is like the tape delay, Mind Hall reverb, and then a Boss Dimension C, which incidentally is one of Rob's favourite chorus pedals, so it's kind of cool that it's in there for you, Rob. Maybe they made this specifically for you. No global EQ, so what could we do about this? Whilst there's not a global EQ, in the cab block there is actually a low and a high cut. So what we could do if we are using captures that have a speaker built in is actually use that IR block with a flat IR. So this is kind of cool, and an idea that can hopefully help some folks get a little bit more, you know, in case your captures, when you get them into your in-ears, you're finding actually that is too spiky. Well, you could use a flat IR, and that might be a really useful tool to kind of put into your Nanocortex for when this sort of thing could crop up, and then use your low and high cut on that cab block, and then save the presets and save new presets which have this high cut and low cut built in using that IR block that you might not be using, because I wasn't up until this point. But shaving a haircut where you get a little bit of a low cut, a little bit of a high cut, like you might actually use on the global EQ on the quad cortex if you're Rob Harris, or for me personally in Helix, I would use this in what's the word? So hopefully I can load this mono flat cab IR onto my Nano, and hopefully it will work. I'm not necessarily holding my breath. Right, so mono flat cab, I need to actually get in there and IRs. How do we do this? Library, user impulse responses. Right, so we've got a flat IR here that is now working, yes? So what we could do is, and I've not seen anyone else talk about this, although admittedly I've not really watched too many. We can click the IR, and then we got high pass all the way up to 500 and low pass . So that would become essentially like my global EQ, right? So I could set this to 4,000, for example. So now, if I have that IR in my first slot, basically any of my presets, it's going to need to be per preset saved. Get rid of any of those spiky elements that might be annoying you in your ears. That's kind of one little workaround that I thought of. It's not a global EQ, but it's not with or without that IR. I've actually done a few captures with it now. The Dirty Shirley, I've captured some of the enigmatic tones as well, which is what I'll be playing in the intro. But I actually think it's a really cool little piece of kit. I like it for what it does. I think not having a screen actually helps keep it cheaper and simple. It's connected with me with the app on my phone really well. Not had any issues with that. Yes, I think it can get better as time goes on with updates, but as it is, it's actually surprisingly useful would be the way that I would describe it, with the 2 switches toggling between 4 presets. It's actually it's a cool little product, I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right.